So we're in good shape
Nothing
here because we are in the wake of bare knuckle boxing's BKFC 6. And Paulie Malignaggi hit the ring. Artem Lobov hit the ring. They went 5 rounds. The decision came in 48-47 Lobov. So conspiracy theories, everything out the window. And Paulie Malignaggi actually said, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not doing this again."
Okay, so
you saw the
let me
fight.
ask
What do
you
you think?
something. Okay, so first of all, we'll talk about the fight in a minute, but the most important thing of all, sorry, let me get my camera right. The most important thing of all, was Connor there?
He was mentioned, it seems, a lot, but I didn't see him on the camera and stuff. But I didn't get to watch. I didn't get.
He wasn't there, man. There wasn't the building wasn't even full.
Yeah, it did look like the building that there was some seating issues, that there was not a full house. But I think that it definitely is something that's more made for a pay-per-view sale, you know. So I think that's what the marketing was, that they weren't marketing as a live event, which I think was a mistake, you know. But I do think, yeah, it shows, I think, where this is all going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that there were a couple of other bad signs there. So, you know, to me, a lot of it breaks down to, you know, the guys come together, throw a couple of big, heavy winging punches, land or don't land, and then they kind of back up, take a deep breath, and, you know, do it again, so to speak. You know, it gets to be a little boring in terms
That's
of
monotonous.
And then when the guys split their face open, you know, it's like that. How many times, you know? To me, that's never been the appeal of fighting. You know what I mean?
Never.
If you want to see a guy with a deformed face or anything like that. Paulie took a huge gash over his eye. Paulie said in the after-fight interview, he said, "Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I got hit once." He goes, "In the 3rd round, in the clinch, he hit me with one good shot. Yep. The rest of the cuts are all from grazing shots, but he had one real wicked cut."
But he's got 3 cuts, right?
Yeah, he's got little cuts. He got.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, right? Is that, you know, Knuckles cut. That's why we put gloves on in the first place. They put gloves on because it was called a blood sport in MMA.
Yep. If you look at it, when we talked about it earlier, I told you, I said it kind of has a feeling of redoing the wheel. You know what I mean? It's like we already learned this lesson, and you know, boxing already learned it so much that it's forgotten knowledge. You know what I mean? It's like it goes without saying anymore. People aren't going to do this. Well, you know, and they felt this was. Paulie mentioned it in the after-fight interview. He said the boxing people felt this was beneath them.
Yeah, and not just that, but boxing doesn't work in this. Then the rule, you know, I mean, I think it was proven tonight. Now, I'll be honest with you. If not for the 4th round, I would have given the fight to Paulie. But again, I got gypped. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I just now watched the replay on whatever I could find it on the UFC or on the internet. And I got to watch all of the UFC, which was fantastic tonight, by the way. We'll talk about that with Devin in a little bit. But here's the thing that I got from it, okay? I watched the Lieben fight and I watched the Malignaggi fight, or Lobov fight now, right? So in the Lieben fight, what I got was this. Chris Lieben is done. He's been done, and he should stay done. The guy that he fought was pretty much, I think, more or less an amateur bodybuilder striker that, you know, boxes in gyms and does a little bit of this and that. But he's not, I mean, he's not on the level where he should be able to, hi, Devin. He's not on the level where he should be able to be in there with Chris Lieben and doing fights like that. I don't think. I think somebody's on the payroll on the Florida Boxing Commission, and I think it seemed pretty obvious. Having said all of that, this is the only other thing I have to say about the Lieben fight. Chris, stay home, man. You know, whatever you got to do, stop. You need to be done. As far as Malignaggi and Lobov go, it kind of went the way we thought it was going to go, right, Miguel? I mean, when we talked about it, we said, you know, well, it depends if there's clinch or not. Well, here's my problem with that. I went over the Florida State bare knuckle boxing rules, the codex, and it said they could punch off the break. I didn't see any punches off the break. Not break, bang, punch. It said that they had to punch right away. It said any type of backing up would be considered a foul. There are all these things that I read, and I'm like, okay, Lobov's backing off more than Malignaggi is, which freaked me out. I was like, why in the hell would he do that unless he's trying to bait him in, which I think probably he was now that I look at it. But you know what I really found out? Malignaggi is afraid to get hit. And the first time he got hit by Lobov, where he felt it, where he actually hit him. From that moment forward in the second round, Malignaggi really stayed on his bike and stayed away from him, and was kind of like, shit, I don't think I'm getting paid enough to do this. And who knows what he got paid? We don't even know that yet. So what's going on, guys? What do you all call it?
Hey, Dev, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Am I on here live with you guys, or am I in the broadcast zone, or am I here?
You are here and live, and we are talking Paulie and Artem Lobov, the 48-47 UD win that just went down. You heard Chad's thoughts. You know, I don't know. As a boxing judge, I could see giving it to Paulie.
I thought that Paulie was the crisper striker for sure, and I thought he was the better boxer. But the problem is, I think Chad kind of alluded to this, is that he was trying to play a 12-round boxing style with 3-minute rounds in a 5-round fight with 2-minute rounds, and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah,
the judging criteria is totally different. It's based on a lot about. I mean, this is an organization that has taken money out of people's pockets for stalling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something we've seen.
But he backed up on that, by the way.
What?
For whatever it's worth. He backed up on that for whatever it's worth.
Yeah,
but still.
He brought the fight, but I think if this would have been a 12-round boxing fight, I think he would have definitely figured Artem out and probably taken him over by the middle of the fight for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But that last round, he basically completely took the whole round off. Which is I don't know if that's just a boxing habit that he has or what that was, but there was no urgency in him to win this fight. I think he was a little overconfident that he would win this handily, and I just don't think it played out well with him. I mean, even think back at the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight, which a lot of people think that Mayweather carried him into the later rounds, but if you would have judged that fight just off the first 5 rounds, you might have even handed it to Conor.
Could have.
So, boxers fight for 12 rounds. They fill you out. They start to find their punches, and they tend to drown you in the later rounds when they figure you out and they start to really set up their strikes, and they're conditioning so well to be able to handle that kind of intensity for going into deeper rounds. A 5-round fight is totally different than a 12-round fight, and these are even shorter rounds. So I feel like Paulie just has some habits and just a way of thinking when he approaches combat from years and years of boxing that he tried to bring into a fight that didn't work in tonight. But I still thought he was the crisper. I thought he landed the cleaner strikes, but judges saw it the other way. So I'm not mad with the decision, but it is what it is. Paulie didn't fight with any urgency, and it cost him.
I already know what the answer is going to be to this, but can I ask you guys anyway? Miguel, Devin, do you guys feel any vindication as UFC or as MMA people all these years for the boxer getting beat? Feel any vindication at all for that? For kind of like, we told you so. Do you feel like that at all?
No, I don't.
There's a lot on the internet. There's a lot of MMA guys. Boxing's not MMA, and you're going to find out the difference. And so there's a lot of that. MMA people looking for vindication from the boxers who in my time, after my first fight, my first professional fight, the newspaper, I was on the front cover, and they said, yeah, they sold 3,500 tickets versus 500 or whatever it was, but it's still not the sweet science to me. And, and so there is that era of arrogance that that comes with boxing when it comes to MMA, and then especially with bare knuckle boxing, right? So, I mean, where does that play into all of this? I mean, did Paulie lose on ego, as Devin kind of alluded to?
I'm a little concerned for Paulie, who I think that is. I mean, taking all of the emotions, all the comments that Paulie made about MMA fighters aside, he is a fantastic boxing analyst, and as a fan of boxing, which it comes secondary to me to my primary focus, which is on MMA. But I am a boxing fan, and I am a little concerned. And I think it was kind of spelled out on his face in his post fight interview in the ring, that he, I think, knows what happened to him tonight is not going to be pretty. The boxing community is not going to be happy about this. This is going to be an embarrassing black eye on them. But does it do something to vindicate MMA? And this is coming from an MMA guru, as you call me, Chad. No, not at all. Because you take, Cejudo down at 25-35. You throw him in with Lomachenko. You put Holloway in there with Terrence Crawford. You put Khabib or Kamaru Usman in there with Canelo Alvarez or Callum Smith or some of these guys. They're going to get killed in a boxing match. You throw those same guys in an MMA cage with any of them, and they don't make it out the first round. I mean, they're totally different sports. And I think that respecting the individual disciplines of both the sports is important, and what is something we need to do, that we need to make that distinction that MMA is not boxing and boxing is not MMA, and that they're coming from completely different worlds. But one thing I hope that this did do is that those that look at the culture of MMA as just a ragtag, like, I've compared the way that boxing's promoted and the way MMA's promoted is kind of like horse racing versus NASCAR. Like, and that's the way. I mean, I don't think that's an insulting analogy. I'm an MMA fan.
I agree.
But you get this kind of prestigious, like, worthy elite in boxing.
With boxing, you drink your tea with your pinky up.
Exactly, and then in MMA, it's a lot more ragtag, casual, informal, and I think that's changing a little bit. But nevertheless, I think that there's a elitist, there's like a supremacy attitude in the boxing community over MMA. I think that is starting to. We talk a lot about building bridges here on the CRP. I think that that's starting to narrow a little bit. I think that's a good thing.
Well, I tell you, we've had that from day one, right, Miguel? I mean, I think that's a hard thing for you to answer politically, but
I think what you're missing here is that you're missing that this bare knuckle stuff is a third sport. So aside from all the nonsense that boxing and MMA have been through since its inception and that whole growth and whatever, now you're talking about a third sport. And here's my conclusion off of this. It was a good fight. I enjoyed it. I had fun. But can they count on $40 from me every month or every couple of months and stuff like that? I don't think the sport has legs, Lobov winning is a little bit of a blow to him because, Lobov did a good job on the mic. He's clearly, obviously, not a native English speaker, and he's got, I think he said bollocks, right? So he's obviously got a Irish or influence from where he lives over there and stuff like that. But he's credible on the mic, and he's not, a complete, non-entity on camera or on his picture and stuff. But I don't see crossover star kind of power. You know what I mean?
No.
And then the question, even with Paulie, could he lure if he had won decisively? Like, it might have been better if they had just listened to what, my podcast and said, all right, we're going to do what Miguel said. We're going to do a fake fight. Paulie come right up the middle, knock him out in 45 seconds, and we move on, and we just fucking beg McGregor to come and do this. Then they could have made money, right? But Paulie needed to win big, and even with Paulie winning big and McGregor really being just us, being crackheads and talking about it, not really being a legitimate possibility, who is his next opponent? What is this sport about? Where are we going to go next?
You guys tell me.
I was excited on the boxing end to see Randall Bailey do this. And Randall Bailey's a guy who I don't think he cracked. He may have been held a world title. I'd have to look at his resume again. But he was definitely a contender at one point. But you're talking about a guy who brings a little bit of the MMA Pat Smith attitude to you. Here's a guy who would come in and try to take your head off. I mean, you're talking about a guy with probably 45 wins and 42 knockouts, that kind of record in boxing. So when they said Randall Bailey was doing that, and if you know who Randall Bailey is, I was like, yeah. The fact is Paulie had 7 KOs in boxing, or something along those lines. So he was going to have to dance. He was going to have to, accumulate his punches. He says he broke his hand in round 2, so he couldn't throw the way as much as he wanted to and stuff like that. But it's bare knuckle, Paulie. What did you think? You broke your hand before. Maybe you should have thought of that before. So.
Well, imagine this too. I mean, hold your hands up like this, and then put 16, 18, 20 ounces around each one of those, and all of a sudden you've got a karate pad, so somebody can actually practice on. You put your hands up here, you've got 2 hands. That's it. I mean, you can wrap them tight, but that's just about it. And I don't think that Malignaggi was like I said, when he got hit the first time, to me it seemed very obvious that he was like, shit. Okay, I'm going to lose this fight. I'm going to take my shots when I get them because this guy's not very good. But more than likely, I'm going to lose this fight because I'm going to have to stay behind.
Well, he says he only got hit one time the whole fight, so you can take it for what it's worth. I think he was a little bit in a feeling out process, and after that, I think he thought under his own rules and under his own impression that he was never in any danger in the fight, and he coasted, like Devin said. He didn't, he took round 5 off, and in the interview afterwards, I think, he kind of first when they announced the decision, he kind of was like looking for help, looking around. And then he kind of let people have it. He said, oh, maybe they don't do a lot of judging down here in Florida, which they do. I mean, it's a pretty big commission. And, he felt surprised. He felt he won that fight. So that's what I'm looking at here. It's just the kind, you can fool your way into it. Don't ever forget, too. He's a little bit New York. He's a little bit of a salesman. And he's an analyst that knows how to talk fights. So even if he's got to start spinning it his way right away, that's maybe what he did. And I think you're right. I think he took himself, he gave himself a big black eye in boxing. I don't think it's such a problem that he cost himself his Showtime job.
Let's hope not.
But, I think in boxing and stuff like that, he took a little bit of a black eye in terms of overall respect.
That's kind of what I was a little bit worried about with Paulie on a personal level because he's somebody I actually enjoy listening to analyze boxing, and he's actually somebody that I would, if Showtime or ESPN or DAZN or somebody wanted to sign him and maybe give him a 30-minute or an hour-long show every week to analyze upcoming boxing fights and do kind of like what Max Kellerman's got going on ESPN or some kind of a boxing show, I would probably tune in. Because he is very good. He breaks boxing down in a way that I think is very digestible, and he gets you to understand kind of the minutia of the fight that might be a little bit complicated and maybe a little bit technical for the casual viewer.
Yeah,
and he's really good at that. And I'm a little worried from what I've seen about the boxing community is that they're purists. And Miguel, you probably know this more than me or Chad. I know you know this more than I do because I've not really been involved too much with boxing at all. But they do seem like their loyalty rests very strongly on their sport.
yes, it does.
And I'm a little worried about them feeling like they're embarrassed tonight.
Yeah,
And
I think when you said the comparison to NASCAR and horse racing, I think we already said it was right on. But let me give you another reason for it. Because of any, what blows NASCAR and all of NASCAR away, gone, the Kentucky Derby. But that's it, right? But that's it. What other horse races are? You have the Belmont Stakes. Yeah, but you see what I mean? It's like it's not a sport like every week you can go see. There are guys that go to the track every week and they know their horses and stuff like that. But that's a real niche now. Now you're not talking about a major sport. And that's, I think, what you have is you've got the elite boxing, and then really all the amateur boxing, especially with the amateur system in the United States broken, all the amateur boxing is shit in terms of, attention and coverage. And, is it on TV anywhere or anything like that? No. So, coming up in boxing, most guys, they get on TV. If they're lucky, maybe in their 20th fight. Not everybody's Floyd Mayweather. Not everybody comes up, and gets signed by the PBC all the time, right? So I do think that MMA, once you get to the UFC, now you're at a certain level that's way above, the boxing that goes on at the lower levels. You know what I mean? And I think that boxing has had to recognize that at some level, and there's a begrudging difference. And I think that there is an interest that's come up too on the UFC's business model. The fact is, even a revered person in the boxing world like Teddy Atlas is on record as saying, hey, we need to blow this fucking thing up and bring in someone like Dana and just match make away. You know what I mean? So I think the UFC has overcome, and MMA has overcome some of that. Some of it. You're not wrong. The boxing is very snooty. And it is because at the end of the day, Floyd and Pac and you got to have Floyd. Floyd's in the top, all the top pay-per-views. Everybody else dances with Floyd, but Floyd is the top guy, right? So that's their Kentucky Derby. So that's what they hang their hat on. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think it's enough. I'd rather be involved in a sport where, I can see it every week and I got things to follow and I'm looking at it. Not that they come out and do something, once a year or whatever. And then bare knuckle, I think, bare knuckle is the horse racing with the little cart in the back where they sit and they ride on that. I forget what that's fucking called. It's even more shitty.
Carriage races, I believe.
Yeah.
Is it Spartacus?
It's your local.
It's like the Greyhounds. You know what I mean? It's like real shit. So
I get it. So bottom line is this. We talked about it earlier, Miguel. We talked about it earlier this week. I talked about it on my Cadillac chat. This has kind of been this has been really talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to find out what the real pay-per-view numbers were. We're going to find out what the real payouts are, we hope, because we haven't seen any of that really yet. We've heard some roundabout numbers, but we haven't heard it. What do you guys think happens? First of all, obviously there's going to be a BKFC 7.
Oh, that's my question. No, that's
is there going to be a BKFC 10?
I question whether there's going to be a BKFC 7. I mean, at the end of the day, BKFC 7 was announced on the ring for August 10th or something. I think it's August.
Yeah.
August 10th. So it's in the books, right? So August 10th, we'll be doing this again. They're going to be, without the Malignaggi Artem Lobov fight, how are they going to get $40 on pay-per-view, So
they put Lobov against
on pay-per-view, or are they going to be back to like a streaming service and stuff like that? Do they have a contract in the works with ESPN Plus or DAZN or something like that? Or, because then, without that, to me, even the next year, if you're a promoter, this was your big show. You just got your big show. Whatever money you cleared on that, you want to lose it, run a show in August.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if you want to keep the money you made, sell out, get out, because I just don't have I saw their title fight. The title fight, it was a pretty compelling fight. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoy it, but like I'm not dying to see the guy again, or it's like I'm not. So it's like I just don't see that they have the legs to be constantly on pay-per-view and stuff. I think they blew their load. This was their load, the BKFC 6.
Yeah.
Devin, what do you think about the idea that they might be connected to, say, a casino or kind of an online betting thing? And so the online betting thing is creating the odds for it. They're making enough money on it that they'll carry it. It's obviously not costing them that much to do it. And as long as they can get some kind of an impact fight like Malignaggi and Lobov, they can find another something, a UFC scrap versus a Bellator scrap or a Pride scrap or whatever we got to do. And I hate to use the word scrap, but let's face it, that's what it is at this point. Are they commanded by something bigger that we don't know about and they're making money? Or even, is this a tax funnel?
I don't rule anything out. I think it's all possible. I mean, I can speculate all day, and I definitely anticipate and look forward to potential books coming out on this topic that shed some light about the inner workings of bare knuckle fighting championships, and maybe this stuff will be brought to light in due time for us all to see the truth behind it. But I do want to talk a little bit about your guys' point talking about $40 a month for something like this, and whether there's going to be a BKFC 7, let alone BKFC 10. I think we need to do a podcast soon on the topic of pay-per-view is dead. Pay-per-view is dying.
Done.
And when you crunch the numbers, even the UFC with the ESPN, if they just, let's say they made a $15 ESPN subscription fee and that covered all content, it covered every pay-per-view, I think that they would get, let's say, 1.5 million subscribers off of that would sign up for that. When you do the math and you times that by 12, that is like basically the UFC averaging about, they would make more than the UFC averaging almost 400,000 pay-per-views
without the worry
for 12 months of the year with no worry. But what it's doing is it's causing issues with certain superstars of why, okay, if we're going to level the playing field like this, what's my incentive to fight for you? So that's what's causing boxing and stuff like now with like DAZN and ESPN, these different streaming services having to compete with each other to buy. So there's a lot of things to talk about there. But the idea that people are going to want, I think it's getting to a point now where people in a year, we're not going to be paying $40 a month to even watch the UFC, let alone watching something like this.
I went to the movies tonight. I can buy a pass to watch the movies, as many movies as I want at AMC theaters for $18 a month.
Yep. And Netflix has changed the world when it comes to this stuff. It showed the world that we can package a great amount of content for a low amount of price, and by doing that, we're going to take this risky gamble. But Miguel has kind of straightened me out a little bit about Netflix isn't dead, but still, regardless, they have got. I don't know if I know anybody that doesn't have a Netflix account. Like everybody is subscribed to Netflix,
and part of that is too because the price is right?
Yeah,
so they were 90. They were like a cable channel, like HBO. Sometimes, back in the old days when you added HBO to your cable package, HBO was $30-$40 a month, right? So that's back in the old days. But that's where these services are winning out now, is that they've taken and reworked the whole price structure. And so now what happens is when you don't have a million people paying $100 a pop, and then you have all that money that you can chop up. But what you have is you've got ESPN and network that's sitting there and saying, yeah, but we always are broadcasting 24 hours a day, and we always average around 2 million people worldwide seeing us, whether when you include ESPN Deportes and whatever. So it's like we're the biggest sports delivery, and therefore they're selling advertisements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now you watch UFC on ESPN, you'll get the normal commercials and blah blah blah, and whatever all that is. So you're on a whole different level of money. And like I said before, if the ESPN deal is something along the lines of they gave him $100 million for the next 10 years or whatever, then after 10 years, now you see that deal jump and 100 million becomes 3 billion, for the next 10 years. And that's the way NFL, NBA, and their sports and TV deals distributions are going, or went. And who knows where they're going in the streaming era, because they're still tied to traditional network television, right?
Yeah.
But when they start streaming and when they start doing their own stuff, you're going to see a major redistribution there in the sports. But they're not going to take pay cuts, So that may be why they haven't moved as fast, right? But that's what makes it interesting for even, and we've talked about it before. Even the Reebok deal, which it was 5 years, $77 million, and even the frontline fighters get $40K each, and it seems low, right? But again, in 5 years they re-up. If Reebok did real good, add a zero to that, and 77 million is 770 million, and all of a sudden you add a zero to a $40,000 check, and it's 400,000 for as a bonus, and now you're in a different level, And I think that's where it's all heading. The power players there. It's just who's got the legs, I trust in ESPN in the combat sports world more than the DAZN for right now, just because of history.
I do think that DAZN will, like, when you look back at like the NFL, when I grew up, even in my time, I mean, let alone generations before me, still, like, the main football games on a Sunday were on during the day. They were on CBS or Fox, and then that you might get one or two a week on ESPN.
Yep.
Well, we're already starting to see that being manifest in sports with the rise of streaming. It's DAZN and ESPN, and I do think that these streaming services are going to expand into, ESPN might have the NFL, while DAZN might have the NBA,
the NFL will have its own package.
I think that's probably what's going to start happening. The UFC, I thought that when they had Fight Pass, that's where they were going to end up.
I did too.
But I think that they made a more smart business strategy by moving in the direction of ESPN, because, man, they're getting. I mean, I was sitting at a truck stop eating a sub just a couple days ago at 2:00 in the morning, and on ESPN2, I was watching a half-hour greatest fights in the UFC history type of great show. I don't even know what they called it, but it was of the first Gustafson Jones fight, and it wasn't the actual fight. It was like highlights of it and them talking about it and stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I mean, the exposure to new fans right now. And on the main ESPN networks and ESPN radio and stuff, they're pushing ESPN Plus on a regular basis. It's affordable, $5 a month. People are subscribing to this to watch their favorite teams play baseball and college football and all this stuff. And they're tuning into. They probably lost some casual fans with the move in the short term, but they've gained.
Yeah.
What they've lost, they've gained in other ways. So. But I still don't think that people are willing to pay $70 a month on top of the subscription fee. I think that's going to be out the window soon, and praise God for that, because I'd be willing to pay $25 a month.
Oh yeah,
if I got all the content. Everything.
Yeah, I'm just sick and tired of paying my $5 for ESPN Plus, my $7 for DAZN, my $8 for the Showtime package in case they have their thing, and then I've got I've got to watch. The prelims are only on ESPN Direct TV, and then we're only carrying pay-per-view, so you miss the final 5 fights, and if they don't jive right in their timing, if you're kind of off just a little bit. I've missed 3 fights just from pushing pause for a second and then a fast fight happening, So that pisses me off. I call it, I want my money back, And there's all these technical stuff we've got to work out. But I can say this, guys. I think that what we are doing here on the Cage Rage podcast is exactly what needs to be done.
Amen.
We're bringing good news to people. We're bringing them the right news. We're bringing it uncensored, and we're hopefully elevating the education of people on combat sports while delivering the best content we can possibly deliver. Do you guys think we're doing that okay?
Yeah, I mean, here the one problem we have is that we started this podcast out as a Lobov and Malignaggi wrap up, and we have strayed.
No, but here's the thing: we strayed on this, and that's okay, because what I'm getting at is this: the bare knuckle fighting thing wasn't enough to keep. This is what I was actually coming back to. I was going to finish with this. Look at all the stuff we've talked about and how much of it has really been about Malignaggi and Lobov. 5 minutes, maybe, and we've been on the air 35 minutes or something. I mean, I think what we're seeing is the drastic shrinkage of the attention span of the normal human being based on technology. And because of that, we're going to continue to see this swing towards more and more rapid technology, more availability, more ability to catch it whenever you want, how you want, when you want. And when that happens, the guys that are prepared and are on the front line and they've jumped ahead, they're the ones that are going to look like geniuses. But some of them are going to jump too soon. They're going to get hit by the train. So that's all I've got to say about all of this. You guys got anything else to finish up on it?
Well, I would just echo that point, Chad, about watching it when I want to watch it, because I've been staying off my phone, scrolling through my news feed on Facebook and staying off of Twitter, because I do not want to know the results of Bellator tonight. And I'm glad, if you guys know them, I don't want to know.
I don't know
them right now. Please don't tell me, because I did watch the entire UFC card. I mean, there was a couple fights in there that I didn't pay too much attention to, but primarily I watched pretty much every bit of the card. I mean, at least 10 out of 12 fights. And I watched the main plate that they offered me on bare knuckle fighting tonight.
Yep.
But when I'm being offered Joey Beltran and Joe Riggs and stuff in 2019, it just reminded me okay, we're really looking at when we criticize Bellator for bringing on Chael Sonnen and Leo Machida. And here we are, we're watching this and paying $40 for it. Bellator is at least giving it to us basically for free.
Yeah.
And they've actually got guys like Gegard Mousasi that I'm trying to watch tonight. And Pitbull Farrar and Michael Chandler and Kyoji Horiguchi and Ryan Bader and Rory McDonald and Douglas Lima. They've got literal world-class fighters on there. Here we are, we're literally watching second-rate MMA fighters from 10 years ago. I mean, how long ago has it been since Joe Riggs fought Matt Hughes for the welterweight title in the UFC? UFC 50-something? And he fought tonight? I mean, yeah, they've got a long way to go. I mean,
I got that.
What are you doing, Chad?
06.
It's been that long, I believe it. 13 years or so.
06.
Yeah, it was like in the UFC. That was like before the GSP era. I mean, there were
dudes today, and Beltran. It's funny because you could just kind of tell, like on the versus screen, how much Photoshop work went into some of those dudes. You know, it was like they changed the skin color too. So it's like, oh man, it's like it literally looked like on one of the dudes, the guy got knocked out, looked like they put like Jack Hager's body on there or something like that. I don't know what was going on, but it really just didn't. You know who should do this? Some bare knuckle boxing? Andy Ruiz.
Oh God, he'd kill him.
He would kill people. He would go kill people. But
yeah, why not?
Well, he looks the part at least. You know?
Yeah, he's definitely got that going for him. Hey, listen, I don't have much more to say about this, and I know we've got to get to the post UFC show yet. So if you're out there listening to this right now, tune into the UFC post show. Getting ready to talk about that. It was an absolutely fabulous night. As far as bare knuckle fighting championships are concerned, will there be a bare knuckle fighting championship 7? I think so. Miguel, he's questioning it. Devin, I don't think Devin believes it. I don't think he does.
I think they'll do this, but I think that this is it reminds me just recently. I mean, I know you guys probably don't follow this kind of stuff, but just in this past year, Machine Gun Kelly tried to kind of come at Eminem in like a rap battle. And Eminem at one point of his comeback talked about like he made a line about this is it. It's as big as you're gonna get, so enjoy it. I had to give you a career to destroy it. And I feel like, this is it, man. It's as big as it's gonna get. Enjoy it.
Well, remember this. Conor McGregor said that to Nate too.
Yeah,
it's good to be a millionaire, doesn't it, Nate? You're welcome.
I think that this is as big as it's gonna get for BKFC. So I hope that they enjoyed it while it lasts. That's that. I hope if I'm proven wrong with that, I'll eat my words. But I don't think they got really anywhere to go from here. So
I'll bet you one more thing, guys. I'll bet you a gentleman's bet. Then I'm out of here. I will make a gentleman's bet, and I use the word gentleman lightly, especially with Miguel and I. Because I know us too well. Devin, you're not that far off. Don't feel too privileged. I will make a gentleman's bet that BKFC sells out to something or brings on an investment conglomerate of some type, and they get 3 shows done and they quit.
All right. I mean, yeah, it's plausible.
I don't think either of us are going to argue. So,
all right. Anything to add to this before we get out of here? We got a lot to do tonight yet.
Yeah, I think we beat a dead horse here with the BKFC 6. So let's go ahead and shut it down. And I'll resend links to the UFC, or you guys want to go without me?
But I want to try. I want to try to get this done quick because, like I said, I really want to try to get some of Bellator covered before I go to sleep tonight. So,
me too. So break this one, send us the next one. Hey, thanks, guys. We'll see you in just a minute.
Right.